Our liberties we prize, and our rights we will maintain. This is Iowa Civil Rights History Podcast, where we tell stories about the contribution Iowans and the state of Iowa has made to advance the civil rights movement. Past stories are being told, present actions will be highlighted, and preparation for the future will be discussed. Here is your host, Erick Nganyange.
Welcome to the Iowa Civil Rights History Podcast. When it comes to the legal field in the state of Iowa, lots of women made their marks. In 1869, Arabella Mansfield kicked the door as she became the first woman in the United States to be admitted to practice law. In 1918, Gertrude Rush became the first black woman to be admitted to the bar. Then in 2010, my guest, the Honorable Judge Romonda Belcher, was appointed to the bench. She became the first black woman judge in the history of the state of Iowa. Born and raised in North Carolina, undergrad from Howard University, and a law degree from Drake Law School. She's my guest today. Judge, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I want to start it off with this because I read this and I thought this was kind of interesting, and I wanted you kind of to get a little bit deep in it.
Yes.
Just as I'm not defined by my blackness, I am not defined by being a judge. Being a judge is what I do, but it's not who I am.
Absolutely. Yes. I am so much more than a judge. And the person that I am, the daughter that my mother raised, the person I am in terms of my character, in terms of my beliefs, in terms of just how I treat people, that defines me, not being a judge. You know, I have the honor of being a judge, but my hope is that people will see who I am through my work and my service as a judge.
Sometimes who we are, it kind of spill into what we do.
It has to. But I like to believe that my nature, my character, my compassion, the empathy that I have for people, the importance of people being able to be heard, to be seen, those things allow me to be the type of judge that I am.
You mentioned I'm the daughter that my mom raised me. I want to go back there a little bit.
Yes.
Born and raised in Plymouth, North Carolina.
That's right, yes.
I read somewhere you say the population about 4,000.
At the time,
the town
yes.
you grew up, and then you ended up in Washington, D.C., but we'll talk about that. How many siblings do you have?
Okay. I had an older sister and a younger brother. And then several years later, my mom and dad adopted I had another younger sister. So there are four of us total.
And you are second one?
I'm in the middle. So
You're in the middle?
I'm what we call the knee baby.
Okay. So what's the age difference?
My sister and I were 1 year apart. My younger brother and I were 4 years apart. And then my younger sister, they were several years apart. I might have been, I don't recall the age I was when she first came into our family.
Was she the one who was tragically murdered?
Yes. That was Candy.
How old was she?
Candy was 20.
Ooh. And she had 2 kids?
She had 2 children, and they were about 1 and maybe close to 24 months when she passed.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And she got murdered by her boyfriend?
Yes. Mm-hmm. The children's father.
Oh, man. Where were you when you got that call?
I was here in Des Moines. I was working as a prosecutor in county attorney's office and got the call and immediately just packed up and went home. My parents, we're from a small town. At the time she was located, my parents received a call. They went to the location, and I think my father went inside. And then they brought the children out to my father. My sister's children were never in the system because my parents were there to take custody of them. And then as a family, my older sister raised my younger sister 2 children. But we raised them as a family.
Yeah.
She had physical custody of them.
Later in their life, they ended up living with you.
Yeah, the older child ended up coming here with me.
Okay.
At 15, that child had experienced some identity dysphoria. And at the time, my sister just wasn't able to deal with it.
Yeah.
And my family really wasn't able to deal with it. My exposure to life, to individuals, to many people in different areas and with many different traumas and many different backgrounds, just put me in a different position to be accepting and willing to have that child in my care. So that child came to me, came to live with me. I think it was 2016. I went home for Mother's Day, just planning the trip for Mother's Day, and the child ended up coming back here to live here with me in Des Moines. And so it was, everything just worked out perfect. It just worked out perfectly.
I'm assuming the boyfriend is in prison?
He was in prison for, I say, a few years. I think the matter was resolved via plea. So it was a plea. I think the total of years he had was 8. So he wasn't incarcerated for a very long period of time. But fast forward to, I believe, last year, he passed away.
Oh, okay.
He passed away last year.
Did you forgive him?
We did as a family.
Okay.
We had to.
Okay.
Because it was more about what we had to do for ourselves and our faith than it was about him. My sister's children's name, Mysir and Miracle. Yeah. Mysir goes by Cece now. That's her name. But even they went to the funeral of their biological father. Now, his parental rights were terminated years ago, but they thought it was important that they be there. And over the years, he has tried to have some contact with them, and they felt it was important for them to attend.
Oh, that's big. That's big. Your mom, she did not even finish high school?
She did not.
Is she from North Carolina, too?
She's from North Carolina, yeah.
The lady who did not finish high school, she has a daughter who is a judge.
My mother taught me many lessons. 3 of the most valuable lessons that she taught me was the importance of my education. That was one. There was no question about going to college. That was a given. And I was, somewhat nerdy, really focused on education. I didn't do any of the, extracurricular activities. So my education, that was my focus. That was always primary. And then the other 2 important lessons she taught me, 2 of the most important lessons, was my faith. Having my faith, and we went to church, and I learned to tithe. Even at McDonald's and Pizza Hut, I was paying my tithe.
Yeah.
And just treat people. The third one was just treating people the way that I would want to be treated. And I think even today, if we all treated people the way we want to be treated, this world would be such a much better place.
I agree.
But no, absolutely, education was always important.
What did your mom do growing up, or was she staying at home, Mom?
She was a salesperson.
Oh, so she was a salesperson.
Yeah, we had this department store called Belk Tyler. So she worked in Belk Tyler many, many, many years. And before that, I can remember my mom. She worked at this, we had a little restaurant called Little Man. I think she worked at Little Man for years. There's like a hot dog and a fry place. But most of my high school years, she was working as a salesperson at this department store called Belk Tyler.
How did your parents meet? I know.
I don't know how my parents met. Let me.
And in most cases, kids don't even ask those questions.
I know.
Your siblings will criticize on your answers. So.
Yeah, I don't know how they met.
Okay.
I can tell you that Willie Belcher is my father.
And he was a
electrician.
Electrician.
Yeah.
And he started his own business?
He did.
Installing TVs and stuff?
Oh, yes. My dad should have been the first person in my little town to have a satellite cell phone company, but he didn't get the contract. He, electrician by trade. I mean, he would fix everything. Even now, our home is wired in such a way
really?
that my mom probably can't have anybody come in there because, my dad did it his own kind of way. So there's still some wiring that my dad did that I'm sure it's up to code, but it's still, it's still maybe a little questionable. Everything works and runs fine. But
don't touch that switch. Might blow the house up.
But no, he was so gifted and talented beyond his years. I mean, when it came to satellites and cell phones, I mean, the big satellites you used to have, well, they still have inside the house, and cell phones. He was the first person in town to really have that as a business, and really just delved into that. I mean, he couldn't. There was nothing he couldn't do with his hands.
Interesting. Tell me your life a little bit in elementary school, high school, before we get to college. What kind of student were you? You seem like like you say, you're focusing on studies. So you seem like a student that never got in trouble at home.
My father would say before his passing that he never had a problem with me.
Yeah.
He never had. I was the most disciplined and
Never sneak out the house, Judge?
no.
Oh, wow.
No. We'll come back to college. I was in bed by 8:00 when I was in college at Howard University. We'll come back to that. In growing up, I can remember I was either the only one or the only one of 3 black children in class.
Yeah.
I can remember being at birthday parties. I was the only little black girl there. But, I was invited. I went.
Yeah.
As a young child, you just go and, you have fun and you have friends. You really don't really pay a whole lot of attention, but you do.
Yeah.
Right? So, and then, and I can't tell you I remember a whole lot about the middle ages, but I can remember in high school, of course, I was, again, the only one of 3 black students in the class. And while I felt somewhat accepted, I could still tell that there was a difference between me and between them.
Yeah.
And really my desire to become a judge really grew out of that feeling from a young age of realizing that people were being treated differently. A lot of times because of race, sometimes because of lack of education, because of, the side of town that you lived on, because, your parents didn't have this, that, or the other.
Yeah.
And I knew that. I felt that as a young child. And I just said, you know what? I want to be in a position to make sure people are treated fairly. My father used to tell me that I would always be the lawyer in the family. And I didn't want to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a judge.
You wanted to go straight up from college to be a judge?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I believe I could do it, because, again, the upbringing that I had, the belief in myself, the faith that I had, and then the experience that I got and the confidence I got from being at Howard University, I knew it was going to happen. I knew I would become a judge. I knew that. But
So when it was in high school, that's when you realized, I want to be a judge.
It was younger than high school because my environment I've always been, the only one of 1 of 3 in an environment outside of my family. So when I came, for instance, when I came to Drake, I felt at home. When I went to Howard University, that for me was culture shock.
Even when you became a judge then in Iowa, you felt at home. You wanted the few black judges in Iowa.
That's true, but I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
I just know in my environment, growing up with my family, I always knew who I was as my mother's daughter, but I wasn't quite comfortable with who I was because I felt somewhat accepted in those environments. I didn't feel completely accepted.
Yeah.
And there was always something about not being good enough, not having, this, that, or saying the right or fit in.
Yeah.
But I still didn't have the confidence of who I was. I didn't realize that I lived a very sheltered life because the way I grew up that was all I knew.
That's all you knew, yeah.
My sister and I at the time had to be indoors before dark. And for the most part, we played right in front of the house. So we didn't venture out far past 1 or 2 houses down the street.
Yeah.
My brother, who's 4 years younger, by the way, he didn't have that same rule expectation. But my sister and I know, I didn't realize I had been sheltered until I think even after 4 years of Howard.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
I didn't. I grew up.
Wow.
When we would have holidays, my older sister, she was always in the kitchen cooking with my mom. I would come in the kitchen and clean and do the dishes, and of course, nobody wanted to gather when it was time to clean up, so I would always be by myself. And I've always been a loner and an introvert, and I'm very comfortable, being in that space. I can remember when I went to college, I didn't want a vehicle, but I didn't even want a television.
Oh, wow.
I did not want a television because I just wanted a radio so I could hear music. I didn't know I was sheltered until I came to Iowa and I'd been married for the second time. That I realized my childhood was a very sheltered childhood.
How does the introvert get on a stage in acting?
The introvert acts because I was more comfortable pretending to be someone else as opposed to being myself.
Okay.
So I learned at a very young age that I love to act, and I was very comfortable doing that. But,
that would scare me to death as an introvert to get on the stage.
No.
Were you always the smartest kid in the class?
I don't know if I was no.
Okay.
I don't think I was always the smartest child in class, but I had a zeal and a zest to learn and to stay focused. I stayed focused on my education because I knew I wanted something more than just that environment that I was raised in. And my education, as my mom instilled in me, was so important. That was my focus, Didn't date a whole lot. I think I finally had my heart broken at 16.
Oh, boy. She still remembers you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I just, my education was always my dominant, my focus. Focus. And I knew I'd go to college.
What was it about Howard University? Was it historical?
It was
part of the HBCU.
It was a predominantly black university, and I heard about all of these people.
Yeah, the people who went through
from there and who rose from there, who were people who long before me, people that I knew, that I'd heard about, in the public and entertainment and all these things. I was like, I want to go to Howard University.
What did you major on undergrad?
Major in administration of justice, minor in broadcast journalism.
Broadcast journalist.
Yes.
Oh, that's new.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm a storyteller, and probably being out in front and sharing stories kind of fit into even who I am today.
Yeah, that makes sense, because even to get on the stage.
Yes.
Yeah, that's part of that.
Yes.
How was the big change from you moving from Plymouth, North Carolina? How old were you when you moved to Washington, D.C.?
I'm going to guess I was about 18. Ooh. And because I just graduated high school. D.C. was big city, bright lights, and I was like, oh, my goodness. And I just, again, being in a very sheltered environment, first of all, aside from my family, I had never been around that many black people. So that was culture shock. But I was like, I had to learn to be comfortable because that wasn't my environment. High school, grade school, that wasn't my environment. I was always in the minority. So I really I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But again, being sheltered, I was in bed by 8 o'clock every night. And this is Howard University, Washington, D.C.
8 o'clock is when the night starts.
Not for me. Now, 8 o'clock, I was in the bed. And I had a roommate who had a twin. Of course, they didn't put them together, so I get one of the twins. And they were just amazed because you're right. 10 o'clock, they're just getting ready to get out. 8 o'clock, they may be having dinner. And I was like, no. I didn't party. I dated very little. To a lot of people's surprise, being at a historically black college, I didn't pledge.
Oh, really?
I had no interest whatsoever, no interest. But I soaked up all of that, the confidence that I needed in who I was as a black female, and hearing about all these other people and seeing everything that they've done, seeing the names of the different buildings. Mm-hmm. I stayed in the Tubman Quad. It was just amazing. It was just amazing.
So when you're going through Howard University, you already know what do you want to do with your life.
Yes.
Then the next question is, what law school do I want to go to? How in the world did you pick Drake?
Interesting. I did not apply to Howard University, and I'll tell you why. Because I knew my world would not look like Howard University campus. I knew, not just my world, the world.
The world, interesting.
I knew the world did not look like Howard University's campus. So I knew I was going to go to a majority white law school. Now, what I didn't know at the time was where I would go to law school would be where I'd spend a whole lot of the rest of my life. And Iowa was not what I had in mind. But I didn't know. I applied to some schools on the East Coast, and I was on the waiting list. But a young lady who used to work at my freshman dorm, her name was Charlene Harry. She and I became close friends. First person to took me that I traveled out of the country with her years later. But she suggested I go talk to the state's attorney of Maryland at the time. And my girlfriend said, go talk to Alex. She was a friend. Just go talk to Alex. Because I was like, okay, and don't lose sight of what it is you want to do. So I went and talked to him. He said, Marquette and Drake. And I looked at him like, what are you talking about? And then he said, Iowa. And I'm like, Iowa? Where is Iowa? Yeah. And even today, I think Marquette is in one of these other, Midwestern states. But it was something about Des Moines. When my mom and I looked over, we started to research this Drake University Law School. Yeah. And because it was centrally located in the capital of Iowa, we said, okay, maybe I'd be okay there. And this was 1992. My mom and I came and, we kind of scouted the place out. So when we flew in, when we left the airport, when we took a wrong turn, instead of turning left out of the airport, we turned right. And in 1992, that was a cornfield.
Oh, boy.
Now it's like, you can get on this and that and go any place, but it's a cornfield. That just tells you the growth that we've had here since 1992. And my mom and I both thought that Des Moines was similarly situated to Greenville, not quite Raleigh. It didn't feel as big as Raleigh, Durham. Again, I'm from a little small town. I'm a country girl, really. I just happen to land in Washington, D.C., but, this is, so my mom thought I'd be fine here. So I applied, they accepted me on scholarship, and, here I am many, many years later. When I came, I had a student ask me about being, how did I feel about being at Drake? Because I was a black female in this majority, white institution, all these white people. I'm like, you know what? I feel quite at home. This has always been my environment. Howard University was culture shock for me. I had to really learn how to navigate through. Howard. I was like, look, I'm good. So that's how I ended up at Drake. And I have to say, knowing that I wanted to be a judge and not having any idea in terms of what type of law I wanted to practice, I'm very thankful that I had many opportunities to practice in many different areas of the law because I had no idea. I had no idea. So I interned with a large firm. I interned with a state office. I interned with the county attorney's office. And when I did that, something went off in me. It's like, that's what I want to do. In the meantime, I call that my mean time. Being a prosecutor was my mean time. And it took me some time to realize the impact that I had as a prosecutor because I had discretion. But it took me some years before I realized that.
What was your first job after Drake? What did you do?
Being a prosecutor. So I was a prosecutor. I was assistant Polk County attorney. I graduated in May, I passed the bar in June, and I got my job at the county attorney's office in September. In September, I started as assistant Polk County attorney, and when I first applied, there were two positions. One was in intake, and one was in juvenile. And intake was just about, approving charges. Juvenile, I was going to be in the courtroom. Of course, I wanted to be in the courtroom. Yeah. So, of course, I told them I'd take either position, but I really wanted the juvenile position. Hadn't had any background in juvenile law, hadn't had any specific interest in juvenile law, but I knew that would give me an opportunity to be in the courtroom, so I was excited about that. As I said, I was hired in September. I was just so excited that the opportunity presented itself, and I was there. I really loved working in the juvenile realm, but I knew I had to leave that in order for my ultimate dream to come true.
Yep.
So I started in juvenile, then I did criminal for a number of years, and then it's like as I was applying, you don't have this, you don't have that, you don't have any civil experience. I said, well, how about I go to the civil docket? And, Johnson said, okay, you can go to the civil docket. So then I had civil experience. But I never went to law school to work in a firm, to have my own law firm, to work 80 hours a week. I wanted to have a balance. I wanted to have a balance, and my impression of people in large law firms was that they didn't have 40-hour weeks. I wanted a 40-hour week because I wanted a life outside of my job. I'm very thankful for all the exposure that I had at Drake Law School, and for all the experience that I was able to obtain at the county attorney's office.
Okay, you did that job for 15 years?
15 years, yes. And over the course of those 15 years, I think the first time I applied to be a judge was 6 years out of law school. I was ready.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was ready. I'm like, what you doing? Come on here. I was ready.
They probably look at your application like, who's this?
No.
She's not even ready yet.
Yeah, no. So 15 years later.
Yeah. But I mean, you already knew, you knew way before high school that you want to be a judge.
Absolutely.
So why do you want to wait?
Exactly. So it was not until my investiture did I realize the meaning of my name.
So talk about
Mrs. Glantine. So Mrs. Glantine was the second black female in the state of Iowa to be licensed to practice law in 1952, 53, somewhere around there, after Gertrude Rush. So I met Miss Glantine, and I call her Miss G. I met Miss G after I graduated law school. So I had not met her before when I was in law school. But after I graduated law school, I was invited to an event at her home, and it was the first time I had met her. And we clicked and bonded like nobody's business.
Yeah.
And we were thick as thieves. She was always very dear to me. And she allowed me in. She allowed me to see a very personal side of her.
She called you a special daughter.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. At my investiture, Mrs. Glantine said the meaning of my name was protecting hands, wise counselor.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, look at that.
And you did not know about it?
I never heard that.
Wow.
I never heard that that's what my name meant. And again, with my upbringing and the belief in my faith, I said,
makes sense.
I'm just walking in my purpose.
Yeah, it makes sense.
I am truly walking in my purpose because I'm really trying to protect people, those that appear before me. And I'm trying to be wise about the decisions that I make and the opportunities that I give to other people.
You think you found your purpose in life?
Oh, absolutely.
You're doing exactly
I'm
that.
like, this is it. I am walking in my purpose. I tell students all the time, my mantra is, know your purpose, follow your passion, live your dream. That is my life. Pouring into others and making an impact and making a difference.
You wanted to be a judge all your life. When did it hit you like, oh, I can be the first black female judge in the state of Iowa's history? I'm about to crush the ceiling.
I didn't think about it really. I said it, but I didn't. I was first of all, I just want to be a judge. Yeah. It was long after I was in law school and graduated that I realized that there were no black female judges in the state. So then I started to speak that. But I don't even think I fully understood what that meant. But I just knew it was going to happen. I knew I was going to become a judge. I don't know if I knew I'd be the first, but I kept saying I'm going to be. I kept speaking that thing as I'm going to be the first. I'm going to be the first. When it happened, for a moment I was like, oh my God, I was like, but then I didn't stay in that state of just shock or fear for long, because I said that I had been prepared for this very moment. And who better, without sounding conceited or kind of big-headed, because anybody who knows me, that's not my nature. But I had to be convinced as to who better to walk in that position than the person that I had been created and had established myself to be. Mm-hmm. So that gave me comfort, and I stopped thinking about the historical context and just looked at the opportunity and the example that I had to set in this role. So sometimes, even today, I don't really fully grasp the magnitude
of it,
of what I've been able to accomplish.
If you can think from this perspective, because you're in a club of very, very few women in Iowa. Arabella Mansfield broke the ceiling in 1869, the first female to ever be admitted to practice law in the United States. She came from Iowa.
Yes.
Gertrude Rush was the first. In 1918, she was the first black woman to be admitted to practice law. In Iowa. Mm-hmm. You come in 2010 as the first female black judge to be appointed to the bench. Yeah. So that's a very small club from 1869. The rest of your family still in North Carolina?
Everyone is in North Carolina. My sister, who had custody of my youngest children, my youngest sister's children, she passed away April of 2020.
Oh,
April
sorry,
20, right?
Sorry to hear that.
Right at the height of COVID, she passed away. My mom is there. My brother is just about 2 hours away from my mom. And then I have my uncle and my aunt. So my family is pretty small. And I have extended cousins, but my family is pretty small.
Okay, and I'm assuming you're still going back home?
I go back home.
Whenever you get a time?
Yes, I have my mom come here. My mom and I talk every day. On the way to work, on the way home, in the middle of the day. We talk.
You guys are tight.
We're tight.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
We tight. We talk at least twice a day.
Oh, wow.
Every day. So, yes, we're really close. So I make sure that I get to spend that time with her. Either, she's here or I'm home or we're traveling someplace.
We're living in a kind of chaotic world today. How do you keep your inner peace? My faith, and really trying not to get too, when I say bogged down, I mean I hear it because I want to be informed, but I can't stay focused on it because I have to do what I can in my space to be impactful and make a difference. And then I have all these other things that I'm responsible for that I have to do. But my faith really keeps me believing in somehow things are going to change.
I speak at another judge's class, and he asked me at the end of my presentation, he said, Judge, on a scale from 1 to 10, how optimistic are you that things are going to turn around and change and be better? And I had a long pause, and I believe I said about an 8. I said, I have to be optimistic. I said, I can't do this work day in and day out and not be optimistic and believe that a change is going to come and things are going to come around. Yeah.
So besides being in a court all day, Monday through Friday, what else are you doing outside the court?
Well, right now, I'm teaching. I'm an adjunct professor at Drake Law School, and I teach, for this semester, I teach children and the law. This is the second year I've taught that. 2 years prior, I've taught trial advocacy. And then when I'm not busy doing that, in March of 2020, LexisNexis came to me and asked me to write a treatise on Iowa criminal law practice and procedure. And again, not really fully understanding who I am, I asked him, I said, how'd you find me?
You're a public official. Easy to find.
I was like, how'd you find me? He said, we were looking at professors at Drake, and we saw that not only were you a professor at Drake, but you were a judge and you are a prosecutor. We just think you'll be great for this opportunity. And much like teaching, I never thought about teaching. I've had colleagues who have taught, but I never had an interest in teaching. My love for people primarily are the very young and the very old. Those who really can't care for themselves. And I have a lot of patience for the young and for the elderly. I didn't have a particular interest in teaching, but the dean, of course, came to me and said, Judge, we need to get you to teach. And I was like, Dean, I don't know. And I thought trial advocacy was going to be easy. It was not easy at all. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. And then when I learned that they did not have anyone to teach children the law, well, that's what I do right now every day. So I said I could teach children and the law. And they said, of course,
Go ahead,
have at it. Yes,
okay.
Have at it.
What do you do for fun?
I do like to travel. So traveling is good. Now when I and go new places and see the world, because I'm like, the world is so huge.
So big.
On a day-to-day, my vice is sleep.
Oh, okay. Okay.
On a day-to-day, my vice is sleep. So, but since I've been teaching and writing and judging, it's like, I haven't had a whole lot of space and time to do other things other than judge and sleep and write. But one thing that I used to do, I haven't done it this year, but again, I've had so much going on. Normally during my lunch hour, I walk. Because I didn't realize how much I sit all day.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sitting here in my courtroom or I'm sitting on the bench, and it's like I need to get up and move. Yeah. So I like to walk. I like to exercise. I like to get out and go to Grace Lake and walk around Grace Lake on Saturday mornings. For the most part, I love to travel. I love to walk, and I love
sleep.
2.5 hour nap. That half an hour, no.
2 hours?
Two, at least two.
That's not enough, Judge. Just sleep.
At least two. And then I can get up and go on about my evening a day. Yeah.
Have you ever thought about going back to your journalism a little bit more?
I've had different opportunities to write, and I believe I am this is my own idea of myself. I believe I'm a better written communicator than I am a verbal communicator. I can animate and give you dramatic, but if I'm just having a conversation, I think my writing is so much more in depth. So I enjoy writing because I like to be thoughtful. When you're talking, you can't be as thoughtful. You got to be on the spot in the moment, right?
And you'll forget things.
Yes, exactly. So when I write, I can really just kind of be more thoughtful and just really lay whatever it is whatever the topic is or the idea, the thought, out a lot more in depth than I guess a normal conversation.
Okay. If you have to pick, what would you write about? What would you write? Would you write like a book series, maybe like kids' book series?
I don't know. Okay. I have so much in me that some things.
You better start writing now, Judge.
I don't know. I've thought. I don't know. I don't know because part of me wonder, would I write from my own perspective and, this is all of my experiences, my thoughts, my beliefs, or would I tailor or temper it a little bit? I haven't thought about that. But I think there's something to be said about writing just to encourage young people and just being able to tell a story. I think I'm a good storyteller. Another passion of mine would be to have a compassionate judge show.
Oh,
so
okay.
I would love to have my own television show, but I want to be a compassionate judge. I want to be who I am. I don't want to change who I am for ratings.
For the rating, for the show.
I don't want to do that. And I only know one person. I don't know the gentleman's name, but this older guy, I think he's from the Midwest. It might have been from Philadelphia. But he's a very compassionate man. Yeah. And he has his own show, but he's very compassionate. He's very caring. I mean, that's something I would love to do. I would love to act, be in a position to. That's my other thing. So it's like being a judge, going back to Howard University. Yeah. Howard University has the finest fine arts school. Yeah. Sometimes I just wondered what my life would have been had I gone through fine arts instead of liberal arts. I don't regret it.
Interesting.
I just wonder if I had chosen a different path, but because the judge thing was all that I knew that I wanted to be and do, it's like I would just focus on that. I don't know how much. I did think about doing things outside of the norm. I was just so focused on being a judge. It's like I didn't think about anything that came. I didn't think about anything that came with it. I just knew and wanted to be a judge.
Possibly if you took the other path and do a fine arts, you might end up in Hollywood.
Maybe. I don't see myself in Hollywood because I like to be authentic. I don't think a lot of things, this is my personal opinion, a lot of things that we see today, it's not authentic.
It's not authentic, true.
So I don't know. I don't know where I would have ended up. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. Even today, it's like, okay, I've lived this dream. I've done this for 13 years now. Now I'm ready for whatever's next. I don't know what that is.
When was the last time you cried in a courtroom?
I can't cry in a courtroom. Okay. I tell you why. I've held back tears. Yeah. And this is something my mother noticed even when I was a prosecutor, when I was prosecuting juvenile cases. She said, Romonda, she said, I know something different. I'm like, what is it, Mom? She said, you're not as emotional as you used to be. I was like, why you see that? That was I won't call it a trait, but that was something I had to learn to not do. I could feel the emotion, but I couldn't express the emotion. Because as a prosecutor, of course, I was prosecuting cases that dealt with incest and abuse and a lot of things that happened to little children. And I couldn't be in front of a judge trying to plead my case, crying. Yeah. And, so I've had to learn how to temper all of that, feel it, but not express it. Yeah. So even as a judge, again, I hear a lot of things that are very traumatic, that are moving, that are emotional. Yeah. And I can hear it and feel it. Yeah. But I have to still stay removed from it. I can tell you the last time that I had to fight back tears, I have what's called I'm presiding over our family treatment court, and we call it recovery court. And when we have parents come into the program, we have them share their story. Yeah. And I had one mom share her story, and it was this woman had been through so much trauma. Oh, so much trauma. And for her to still be standing, for her to still want to be in the space to get the help that she needed for all the trauma that she experienced, for her to want to be a parent. I mean, her sharing had all of us fighting back tears. Yeah. And not only for what she had experienced, but that she could still find her way to be in my courtroom, in my program, and to be as strong as she was, having gone through all that she had experienced. Oh, so I have to say that while I don't express the emotion, I feel all the emotion. Mm-hmm. And again, that is why my sleep and my faith continues to be so important. So I don't carry all of that I take on of the people that present before me. I can't carry that because it would be so heavy. And I would not be able to pour into the next family or the next child because I'm carrying all that has been shared with me. So again, my rest time, my downtime, and my faith allows me to be able to
disconnect.
And I won't say disconnect because I have to stay connected, but not carry it on, not let it weigh me down.
That's hard.
It is hard, but I'm thankful that I'm able to do that. I couldn't do this work if I wasn't able to do that, because every day,
something new.
Every day.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say my sleep, being able to reconnect, to reboot and readjust. But my faith is so important that I don't carry, and we call it, having that compassion fatigue. I never want to be at a space where I'm so
drained,
heavy and drained that I don't have anything to give, that I can't be compassionate, that I can't be patient, that I can't be thoughtful, that I can't listen and give somebody an opportunity to be heard. So it's just so important to be able to have that. And that's something that you learn on the job, and you have to have it to be effective.
Do you sometimes go back in your office and get on your knees, like pray?
No, but I pray. It's interesting you asked that, because I'll be on the bench and I pray for people.
Okay.
Because I pray for people because I can see they're struggling and that it's hard and that they're trying. So it's like I'm always praying.
How much you look at that and then you go back to because you've seen a lot of kids come in your courtroom. Mm-hmm. You go back and look your own sheltered childhood. Mm-hmm. How much of that you look and you be like, wow, I did not know this world existed.
Interesting, I did.
Okay.
Because even though I was sheltered, I grew up in a home where there was domestic violence. I grew up in a home where there was alcoholism. I grew up in a home where we had family that suffered from mental health issues. So I was exposed.
Kind of exposed to it.
I was exposed to a lot of the things that people who appear before me struggle with and deal with. And I believe that exposure in my own family really allows me to have the empathy and compassion that I have for the people that I see.
I asked when the last time you cried on court. You say you're trying not to do that. When was the last time you cried personally?
It's funny you asked that too. For years, I didn't have a really good cry until 9/11.
Oh, really?
Yes. And this is the prosecutor. These are my prosecutory years.
Yeah.
9/11. When 9/11 happened, I was fixed. When I say I had to remove myself from all the noise and what's going on, I was so fixated, and I cried. And before that, I can't tell you the last time I had cried. I had a really, really hard, good cry. But 9/11 did it. And then the next time I can remember was Katrina. And that broke me in a way that 9/11 didn't. Because just to see, it was different. It was different because just the lack of compassion that seemed to be so prevalent was just, it was just unimaginable to me.
Yeah.
And for this to happen in the United States, that was another cry. I just I couldn't move away from that. So, but outside of that, I'm sure there have been other moments, but those were 2 times when I just had to just have those quiet, still moments and let those tears fall.
How you keep your mental health on check?
My faith again. Faith. Sleep. Sometimes I have to say no. I don't like to say no when it comes to children and really being impactful and making a difference and being set an example. It's really hard. But you can imagine it's hard to be the only one too. That always, So sometimes I have to say no, but I try not to say no often.
Yeah.
But eating right, having a good diet, staying my physical health, but first and foremost my faith. Because I say even now with professor, adjunct professor, author, judge.
Yeah. It's gonna be
it's a lot. And I said I have 3 full-time jobs and I only get 24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
And while I sometimes question my ability to recall things, I remain thankful that I'm able. I'm able to juggle all these 3 things and, try to get all these things done.
And then you got people like us who just keep hounding you down, who want to sit down and talk to you. So that's another thing, too.
But I really appreciate your interest because, it's funny. I say, you know what? We just celebrated Women's History Month. And one of the local stations did an expose on Gertrude Rush. I said, it's going to be like 100 years from now, and people are going to say, oh, Romonda Belcher, you remember it, But it's going to take 100 years passing for that to really, really be
for
felt.
us to appreciate.
Yeah, exactly.
It's always like that. We'll get appreciated when we're long gone.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I appreciate your interest in taking the time to come and talk with me.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
Thank you. Anything you want to add, Judge? I think that's all I have.
All right. right. But thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Yep.